in the U.S.-led campaign. The first was on September 23rd, and that was the first day of the U.S. airstrikes in Syria that are part of Washington's strategy to degrade and destroy the Islamic State. We'll have more on that story later, but turning now to the aftermath of the elections in the United States, midterm elections that gave the Republicans control of both the legislative chambers may not cause a division in the leadership of the United States as expected. The Senate's new Republican leader and President Barack Obama both promised yesterday to end the political gridlock and work together for greater good of the country. The incoming leader, Mitch McConnell, said he would make the ineffective Senate function and pass bills. President Barack Obama did express his intentions to go ahead with the executive action, however, on immigration before the end of the year. That's been a major talking point for Republicans this year. Election campaign was characterized by widespread frustration expressed by voters about the inability of Congress to work together.
After the Democrats faced political rebuke at the polls, President Barack Obama said he will move ahead with executive action on immigration before the end of the year, but he called on Republicans to work with him to affect change they can support too.
Before the end of the year, we're going to take whatever lawful actions that I can take that I believe will improve the functioning of our immigration system, that will allow us to surge additional resources to the border, where I think the vast majority of Americans have the deepest concern. And at the same time, I'll be reaching out to both Mitch McConnell, John Boehner, and other Republican as well as Democratic leaders to find out how it is that they want to proceed. And if they want to get a bill done, whether it's during the lame duck or next year, I'm eager to see what they have to offer. But what I'm not going to do is just wait.
He added that Congress has the power to change that.
Whatever executive actions that I take will be replaced and supplanted by action by Congress. You send me a bill that I can sign, and those executive actions go away.
Tuesday's midterm elections gave Republicans control of both houses of Congress for the first time since elections in 2006 and the first time since Obama entered the White House nearly 6 years ago. The White House said the president called a series of Democratic and Republican lawmakers on Tuesday night. On Wednesday, he spoke with Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell, who is poised to become the Senate's new majority leader and with whom Obama has a frosty relationship. But the president told reporters he would welcome a chance to share a cordial drink with his political rival.
I would enjoy having some Kentucky bourbon with Mitch McConnell. I don't know what his preferred drink is, but my interactions with Mitch McConnell, he has always been very straightforward with me. To his credit, he has never made a promise that he couldn't deliver.
The president is going to host the entire congressional Republican and Democratic leadership at the White House on Friday to discuss the path forward for the next 2 years.
We can now talk more about the U.S.-led airstrikes in Syria hitting the al-Nusra front in northwest of the country. Elizabeth Arrett of the Voice of America joins me now from Washington. Elizabeth, great to see you, always. What more do we know about these airstrikes that took place on the al-Qaeda-linked Nusra front in northwest Syria?
Well, it's interesting that they've gone after them again without specific justification that they did last time, which was that there was an imminent threat from a group within al-Nusra, the Khorasan group, that it was an imminent threat against the U.S. This time, we're not hearing any explanation of why they broadened it out to groups beyond Islamic State. There is some speculation this was a group, Nusra itself had gone and ousted some Western-backed rebels from a certain area, and so that this would be against them. But again, we don't have any official word on why they're having the expansion, but it's causing a fair amount of concern in that people are thinking Nusra has specifically worked against the Syrian government of President Bashar al-Assad, and that by going after them, they're actually further strengthening the Assad government, and that's getting a lot of people upset.
Elizabeth, the al-Nusra is one of the groups that's fighting against the Syrian government, from what you said. Are there other groups that are also working against the U.S.-led coalition on the ground? Because I know they're supposed to be working with a number of other terrorist groups in order to fight ISIS.
It does become terribly complicated. I think we saw actually by an account of one of a journalist who was captured by the Free Syrian Army, who then passed him to al-Nusra, who then, when he tried to escape, got back to the Free Syrian Army, the Western-backed group, who then passed him back to al-Nusra. So these allegiances, even though we try to make distinctions between them, sometimes join up, sometimes fall apart, and even their main target is difficult to pin down at any given time. I think one of the things too that always is a risk when you have these aerial bombardments is that the civilian casualties, and there were reports of civilian casualties, including children overnight, really risks putting off any kind of support. So that would probably need to be addressed a little bit more clearly by the U.S.
What more do we know about the other gains made by the U.S.-led coalition on the ground in Syria? They've been there for almost a month now.
Well, I think probably the biggest gain that they've seen is that it appears that the Kurdish fighters, the Syrian Kurds in Kobani, have benefited greatly from this. There was speculation that Kobani, up along the border with Turkey, was going to fall to Islamic State forces. Sort of, there was day by day, and then once the airstrike started up, and then some airdrops, even though a few went to the wrong side, that seems to have turned the tide, or at least left it as an ongoing battle rather than what had been predicted to be a further advancement of IS.
Thanks a lot, Elizabeth. We do appreciate, you explaining all of this to us. We'll be reaching out to you in the coming days for more on the progress made by the U.S.-led coalition in Syria. Elizabeth Arrett is with the VOA. She reported from Washington. We'll take another break now on The World Today. We'll be right back with more. Please join us again.
Investigating, exposing, uncovering, reporting, hard-hitting interviews. Sunrise Daily, only on Channels Television.
Well, away from the stories making headlines here in the world, it's not all bad news. It's not all shellings in Syria and shellings in Ukraine, as well as the Ebola virus in Africa. There are other really interesting stuff happening in the world and happening in Belgium. It's now been a while that nutritionists have been trying to make us believe that eating insects is good for us. One restaurant in Belgium is taking the theory much seriously than we are and has begun introducing creeping friends into their meals. Watch this.
That's right. Companies and restaurants have begun food ventures with buffalo worms, house crickets and mealworms since Belgium was one of the first European countries to issue national guidelines concerning their sale in 2013. One such entrepreneur is Belgian cricket breeder Little Food, who supplies the critters to gourmet restaurants and praise their mild, nutty taste and crunch. They suggest serving them with soy sauce and mushrooms or on chocolate. Belgian Nikki Denny from Waterloo was unfazed by the taste of the company promoted their product at the Eat Brussels food event.
It's okay. It's really good, in fact.
Little Food says the cricket contains 3 times as much protein as beef, along with a wide range of vitamins, minerals, and fatty acids. On top of health benefits, insects are seen as a solution to meet the demands of food supply and are viewed as a more environmentally friendly method of food production. This spurred Damien Huysmans to found Green Co., which prides itself as being the first in Europe to offer products containing mealworms to be distributed in regular stores.